Welcome back to How to Be a Better DM, the official podcast of Monsters.rent. I'm Justin Lewis,
And I'm Tanner Wayland.
and we are here to help you tell better stories for yourself and your players as you dungeon master sessions of D&D, Dungeons & Dragons. We'd like to give you some quick announcements. We actually have one before the show, and then after the show, if you want to stick around, we have some more announcements then as well. But first, let's talk about this. Tired of being alone? Are you tired of not having any of your players understand you? Are you tired of never truly belonging? Well, you're in luck. All you need to do is join the Guild. The Guild is a unique and exclusive experience that is only open to Dungeon Masters. It is a full community focused on helping ease your DMing burdens. Want to meet other DMs? Join the Guild. Want to discuss your homebrew ideas with people who would appreciate it instead of just telling your cat? Join the Guild. Want to find a place where all your wildest dreams will come true? Join the Guild. Go to monsters.rent/guild and sign up today for free. Wait, that can't be right. Chuck, can you check this again? Is this supposed to be... What? Oh, they're serious? It's free? Oh, okay. All right. Yes, go to monsters.rent/guild and sign up today for free, even though they are crazy for giving this away for free. Common side effects may include burping, sneezing, laughing, breathing, hearing, listening, tasting, farting, critting, sarcasm, and in extreme cases, explosive diarrhea. Awesome. With that out of the way, we can get into today's show.
Hello and welcome to How to Be a Better DM, the official podcast of Monsters.rent. My name is Tanner Wayland, and together we're going to learn how to make the best adventures and environments for our players to enjoy. Today, my dear friends, we're going to learn about ways to give the gift of DMing to those around you. In the past, honestly, I've been guilty of avoiding offering to be a DM, right? In fact, I've even avoided, been in a conversation with people who are very much interested in D&D. And then they're like, oh, I'd love to play, but I don't have anyone to DM for me. Or they even know that I DM, and then they're like, hey, we should play sometimes. And then I never follow up. Why? I mean, I always have excuses in my head, right? Like I don't offer to be a DM because I'm so busy. You understand, right? Oh gosh, I just couldn't find the time to plan a whole session. And who knows, maybe they'll want to play more. And I just don't know if I have the time for that, right? On the other hand, I've seen people who don't know that I DM, who are like, oh, I don't know, I'd love to be a DM, but they just, they just don't feel confident. And sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe if I bring it up, they'll want me to DM. Or maybe, maybe I don't have that good of advice in the first place to give them. And I mean, I know you might think that's silly as someone who does a podcast, but in the moment, you make all sorts of excuses in your head, right? I'm sure you've been there. We've all, in one way or another, been a bit of a Scrooge in terms of opening ourselves up to offering our talents as DMs. And that's what I hope to do. I hope to be your ghost of Christmas past. Not Christmas. Ghost of DMing past, present, and future to help you give the gift of DMing to all those around you, right? And maybe that way you can avoid treading down the path that I've trod of hiding my talents and also making it so that the world's a little bit less bright. And who knows, maybe while we're going through this, all of our hearts will grow 3 sizes in one day. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about our sponsor for this episode, Magic Mind. This energizing potion of a drink is exactly what you'd expect. It's a magic little shot of juice that has honestly helped me a lot more than almost anything else I've taken in the morning. As someone who doesn't really enjoy coffee, this is a much more efficient way for me personally to get a jolt in my system. And I'm such a fan. Like today, for example, super exhausting at work, had a bunch of meetings and a lot more drama than I expected, surprisingly. But still, despite all of that, I was so productive this morning. And it was because I had the energy to actually focus. I loved it. That's why I recommend it to all of you out there. Also, if you're wondering what's in it, it's got vitamins, matcha, which is much more effective source of caffeine. It also has various adaptogens and nootropics, which will help you improve your attention span. Starting in January, actually, you'll be able to find them in all Sprouts farmers markets, stores across the country. So if you have one near you, go on, stop by. You're not going to regret it. You can stop by and pick up a little potion of Magic Mind and get a jolt of energy in the morning. Also, once you find out how amazing it is, feel free to go to their website, magicmind.com/betterdm, and use our code BetterDM20 to get up to 50% off of their subscription. Once again, you really don't want to miss out on the benefits that this can bring into your life. So check out magicmind.com/betterdm and use our code BetterDM20 to get yours today. Wait, what is that? Oh my goodness, is that the clock striking 12? And you hear the nervous rustle of pages as I, Tanner, the ghost of DMing past, comes into your life with this message. Support beginning DMs. This is one of the easiest ways to give the gift of DMing. So many people feel like, they just can't get started, or, they just feel incapable of the pressure, right? They're like, oh, I've never been a DM. And that's really sad. Do you remember how most of us have started, right? we were out there. We spent too many hours poring over, a DM's guide, the player's book, and the different adventure modules. And we wanted everything meticulous. And then once you do the game, sometimes you get a warm reception. But for a lot of beginner DMs, all they see is that, like, oh, the reception's kind of lukewarm, and they didn't get the they don't get the reaction they expected, and then they maybe feel like they just failed. But the thing is, as DMs, we have so much advice that we can give them. In fact, like for our podcast, we have a Discord group, the Guild. You can find it on our website. But you can go there and you can get advice and ask questions, right? But beyond that, you personally can give them advice. You can be a player in their campaign if they're having a hard time getting, more than a group of 2 together. You can be like, oh, I'll be a third. And then when they have questions, you can be right there during the session to answer them. And they're probably going to be just simple questions about mechanics. And then beyond that, when you do like participate in a session like that, you can give them really helpful encouragement and positive praise, right? You can give them positive feedback that they can then use to improve. And if you have any extra books lying around, from past campaigns or any books like that, lend them for a bit. It's fine if you expect them back, but anything you can do can really help people out. Now, one thing that a lot of beginner DMs especially need is just a good kick in the pants, essentially, just like a deadline for a first session. And you can be like that. You could be like, hey, I'd love to be in your first session. When's it going to be? And kind of give them the impetus to actually decide and plan the time. But yeah, honestly, don't hold back on encouraging beginner DMs. Oh, look at that. The clock strikes the next hour, and here comes in the ghost of Christmas present. Surprise, it's still me. And presently, hopefully you like that pun, you have a lot of people in your life who would probably enjoy playing with you as a DM, right? For example, I mentioned how there were people in my life who were like, oh, I'm actually interested in that. Now, I've also mentioned that sometimes I've allowed busyness and worry about like, oh, will I have time to plan it well? And I don't want to give them a bad first experience, right? I think that that's only an excuse, like maybe once. But then if you plan a good first session, then you can reuse it with a bunch of your friends, right? As you run into new people, then you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I totally DM for you. And instead of having to stress out and plan a whole new first campaign, if that's an issue for you, if you feel like time crunch and preparation is a stressor, then you know what? Have a prepared first session always in your back pocket that you can just always bring up and be like, oh, a friend of mine wants to learn what D&D is about, and they want to experience it. Well, instead of stressing and always wondering what's the best one, I just always have essentially a template session And that's great. And then if you go on from there, that's fine. But at the very least, starting isn't going to be a difficult thing for you. And by having that ready, you're going to be able to offer a lot more people the gift of your DMing. And they're going to really enjoy that. I especially think that, that's so important to do, because so many times I've talked with people who I don't know that well, right? Like just the other day, I talked with my wife's nephew, and we were talking about how things were going, and I mentioned some difficulty I was having setting up or scheduling rather some sessions of D&D, and he's like, "Oh man, yeah, I played a game of D&D and it was really fun. I've been wanting to do more." And I was like, "Oh, I'm absolutely going to do a session with him," because it was such a good opportunity to get to know him more. And so if that's ever a concern, they're like, "Oh, this person that I'm talking to about D&D, I don't know them that well," then think about it this way. You'll know them a lot better if you just open up and start offering to DM for them a lot more. The hour is actually growing late. And finally, you see me get a huge old cloak on, Ghost of Christmas Future style. And I'm going to give you a challenge. Make DMing a consistently positive and shareable thing in your life. You already spend a lot of time on it. I mean, you're freaking listening to a podcast about it, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way. It means that you're passionate about it. And so if you're passionate about it, share it positively, and it's only going to bring a positive influence into your life, right? So if you see someone wanting to DM, offer them the chance to do that. Maybe they're a player in your campaign and you're like, "Hey, I'll scooch over. You take the seat for, 2 or 3 sessions." That's a great way to do it. Or you become a player in their session. And most importantly, just look for opportunities or people that are interested, and then don't hold back. Make it so that you are comfortable offering, because you're like, "Hey, I've got a session ready, and I know it's just going to be a 100% positive experience that I don't need to stress over." So find a way to make that possible in your life. A very Merry Christmas to all of you, and to all, we also say, let's roll initiative.
Thank you for listening to today's show. We really appreciate your support and your patronage. We have a few more announcements to go over. First,
did you ever fall in love with the library as a kid? It was a place where you could experience 1,000 stories without having to buy 1,000 books. That is what Monsters.rent can do for your D&D campaign. You can rent and swap out as many quality miniature monsters and creatures for your D&D party as you could ever want, without having to buy them. You can rescue villagers from a kobold camp, or lead your party through the fighting forest, or many more adventures. We're coming out with new bundles all the time. Just sign up for our subscription to get access to your own personal library of minis. Go to monsters.rent to find out more. That's the website. Monsters, with an S, .rent. Get your library pass to a world of minis today.
we also wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Stardust and Dragons. I'm going to let one of the cast of Stardust and Dragons, Christian Hatcher, and his crew tell you a little bit more about it.
This August, a new adventure podcast is coming to a platform near you, filled with action.
Shoot one of the two of them. We can't keep taking hits like that.
Drama.
Everything that she's been doing, everything she's going to do, finally sets in.
And Stardust.
Help! Help! Someone, please!
Find out more about this epic odyssey at stardustanddragons.com, where adventure awaits in the stars.
That's all the announcements we have today. Again, thank you so much for everything you do for us. You make this show possible. Like we said before, we'll be back next week with another great episode, and until then, let's go ahead and roll initiative.